guys, today I'm gonna review All of This Is True by Lygia Day Peñaflor. I received an arc of this through Edelweiss and this book is released on May 15th. All of This Is True is a YA mystery slash thriller. I think it belongs a little bit more in the mystery category, but I also get where people are coming from when they are calling it a thriller. And this is definitely one of those books where I really do not want to say a lot about what it is about. I do tend to keep my synopses short, but in this one in particular, I think it is very good to go into it knowing as little as possible. So all I'm gonna say is that this is about a group of friends and they befriend this YA author, and like a few of them are like really big fans. Others are just kind of there because they are friends with the other ones. But this author actually uses their life as an inspiration for her newest book. And this is what we kind of deal with. The book takes place after the book has already been released. And it is told in a kind of interview format. It has a couple of different kind of formats. I'm going to talk about that later. But it's kind of told in a way where you look back at how it all started and how we got to the point where we're at now. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this. So I thought All of This Was True was an overall enjoyable book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I basically read this in 2 sittings. I think the pacing is incredibly well done, and as I said, it has like different formats. So it is told in interviews quite a lot, but then there's also one character who publishes her diary entries. So these are also in the book. And then we have text messages and emails. So it's kind of told through different formats. Obviously, we also have excerpts of the book that the author ends up writing. And all of these kinds of things come together to tell this story. I definitely thought that this was a format that worked incredibly well for this kind of story. As I said, the pacing was really, really great, and I really would have read this in 1 sitting if I had time to do so. I think this is really a book that you want to keep reading, you want to know what's going to happen, and I definitely think that that was probably the strongest point even. Other than that, I have to say that this is a novel that just did not have as much depth as I wanted it to have. I think this had a lot more potential and it wasn't really able to use all of that potential. I think that it could have been a really great character study kind of novel, but I think the characters fell flat in some ways. There's not really a character that I really root for. There's not really a character that I really want to side with. I think that's incredibly wasted potential considering the story and how it kind of unfolds. And especially looking at the character of the author, there's so much wasted potential in not really exploring her point of view in any kind of capacity. I think she could have been the most interesting character in this story, and I think it would have been incredibly interesting to kind of look inside this character's head and understand her actions, and ending the book on a thought of, shit, this character did something really bad. But I really kind of get where she's coming from. I really like her. I think the story tried to do that, but I did not find it convincing at all. I very much had the thought of what this author did was wrong. So there was no like inner conflict for me of thinking about like, oh yeah, maybe there is something to the morals that this author has. There was just nothing for me. This character was just someone who did something very bad and very stupid, and I'm just mad about it. And I think there was so much potential to make this character a much more multiple dimensional character, and it just wasn't there. And I think that was definitely something that could have been dealt with a lot better. And as I said, while I wanted to keep reading and while I wanted to know what's gonna happen and how all of this is gonna end and where all of this is gonna lead, I did think that there was no real payoff for all of that. I actually have this great metaphor of, imagine you have this big gift. It's like this big box and you're so excited to unpack it. And then you open the box and there's a smaller box inside. So you're still really excited because you're like, okay, this is gonna be something exciting. And then you unpack the box and there's a smaller one inside, and you unpack it and you unpack it and you unpack it, and there's always a smaller box inside. And you're just like, okay, this is really cool. And you're still excited because you think, okay, this is definitely building up to something really amazing. Even if it's just a small gift, it's gonna be an amazing small gift. And then you open the final small box and there's nothing inside. And this is like 200% how I felt about this book. As I said, like the process of unpacking was still really exciting and I still had a lot of fun while unpacking. But ultimately, I felt so disappointed because I thought we were building up to something, but then there was nothing. I definitely think that's the weakest point of the novel. I think it's very bad if you build your story in a way where it builds up to a plot twist, but then there is no plot twist. Oh, I was so disappointed when I finished it because of that. And you know how when you read a good book, but then the ending is disappointing, that leaves you with overall mediocre feelings about the book. And especially when it's a thriller or a mystery, you just expect a banger at the end, and there just was no banger. There was also another thing that really bothered me about this novel, but it's super hard for me to talk about it without spoiling it. It's also kind of hard to grasp what of it exactly is a spoiler, but there's one of the characters who has a kind of secret. When we initially learn about this secret in the story, which is pretty early on, it's kind of obvious that this is not the full story. I think that's the best way I can describe it. So this person tells it to other characters, but as a reader, it's very obvious that this person is not telling the whole story. And I think that as a reader, it's like, we know there's more to this and we know there's a different side to that story. And then I thought, okay, it's probably gonna take a little while and then it gets revealed to the characters and then there's this big thing and this big story about it. But it took so long to get to that point, which made me think that this bigger thing, this other side to the story, was a plot twist. And if it was supposed to be a plot twist, it was the worst written plot twist I have ever read in my life, because it was so obvious. As I said, as a reader, it's basically right there on the page. As I said, I get where the other characters are coming from. I get that we had to have a little build up to get to that point where the other characters find out there is more to this. But as a reader, it did not feel very rewarding to wait so long to get to that point. And I know this is super vague and a little bit annoying, but as I said, it's hard for me to go into detail. And I also don't want to be an asshole about it because maybe there's people who don't see it coming. But in my personal opinion, it's really something that's right there on the page. And I just think, even if it wasn't planned as a plot twist, even if it was planned to be there for the reader to immediately understand what's happening, it took entirely too long to reveal that thing in the story. This was another thing that was really missed potential. And I feel like you probably would have had to only do a couple of slight changes to make it less obvious to the reader. So yeah, as I said, overall, I thought this was an enjoyable reading experience. I thought unpacking the boxes was a nice experience, but I just thought it was very bittersweet to find out that there was nothing in the final box. I think if you're maybe looking to get into the genre or you want kind of an easy access to the genre, I think this might be for you. Other than that, I think you might be a little bit bored. It's definitely a unique idea, a unique concept. The format is good, the pacing is good. It's just that I just hate stories where I see much more potential. Anyway, let me know if you have already read All of This Is True and what you thought about it, or if you're excited for its release. And thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!